Hi, Shannon. I am so glad that we are getting the opportunity to sit down together today and talk about one of my favorite things, which is course creation. So
Yes, thank you.
welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. I love talking about this topic as well. So I'm really excited.
So tell me a little bit, I know that you're a content coach, you're a trained cognitive coach. Could you tell me a little bit more about the differences, how they fit together, and maybe how you got to this point?
Yeah, sure. So I was working at a college and I had worked my way up into a leadership position at the college. So I was overseeing teachers and curriculum development teams and helping people to design curriculum and courses and things like that. That's how I got into the cognitive coaching side of things. And cognitive coaching is a way of working with instructors as a leader to help them to get better for lack of just to put simply to get better at what they're doing. So there's three types of conversations typically you would have as a cognitive coach: a planning conversation, a reflecting conversation, and a problem resolving conversation. So the reflecting is my favorite because that's where you learn from what you've done and then how you want to take that forward in your practice of teaching. And I call it a practice of teaching because it's something that everybody is always trying to get better at. You're never perfect at.
It
So
is very
that's
much like learning to read, learning to ride a bike, learning to play an instrument. You have to practice it. It doesn't end. You learn new skills and techniques and tools along the way.
I always compare teaching to yoga because
Oh,
I love yoga.
brilliant.
And yoga is a practice. You'll never be perfect at it. Your body is different every day. Every day you will be different. You will constantly be improving. Every class you do is different. And there's like so many parallels with teaching that you just, if you're striving to be perfect, then you're setting yourself up for failure. You have to set yourself up for continual improvement.
I love what you just pointed out, that we aren't going to get to perfection in our teaching, in our courses, in anything really that we're doing.
Yeah,
But I also
exactly.
like to remember that perfection is not necessarily the goal. It's not what we're aiming for.
Absolutely. We're just aiming to continually do better than we did the day before.
Mm-hmm.
And so then my work now, or how that relates to my work now as a
Yeah.
content coach, is I actually give my clients a choice. I can work with them as a coach or I can work with them as a consultant because those are two very different things. So when you're coaching somebody, you are really doing more of a process of working them through their own thoughts and ideas and reflecting. And you're really just guiding, you're facilitating that conversation
Mm-hmm.
and that thought process. Whereas in consulting, what I do is I look at it as an expert with my experience and my education, and then I give suggestions of how to move forward and what changes or improvements people can make, that kind of a thing. And so I let the client choose what kind of approach kind of fits them better.
I love that kind of agency you're giving back to the client right away, saying, this is really your choice, what's going to work, and I'll do either branch,
Yeah.
but let's decide how this is going to look.
Yeah, exactly. Because some people are just like, just give it to me. Just tell me what I should do.
Yes.
And then other people, get kind of their backs up about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it really works better if the ideas come from them a little bit more. So yeah, everybody responds differently to each
Mm-hmm.
approach.
And I think some of that, getting our back up, it's because it's so important to us, especially if you're creating a course. It comes from your heart and your soul, your
Yes.
very being.
It's
And
your baby.
it is your baby. It's another child in your home.
Yes.
And then if someone says, well, have you thought about doing this differently? This isn't working.
Hmm.
It's suddenly a personal attack.
It's difficult to give your baby, to open up. It's so
Mhm.
vulnerable to let somebody else look at what you've poured your heart and soul into and potentially be, what might be perceived as critical. Although, the way that we work is like, always to try not to approach things that way. But
Absolutely.
it's a vulnerable thing to open yourself up like that. And so I always
Mhm.
really try to take that into consideration, that, it can be challenging.
Yeah. And I think one of the big things that when we get into working with people who are developing courses, creating courses, whether they're very new to course creation or veterans, is that it has to be engaging.
Yes.
And so I know that you're going out and you're working with course creators, especially after they've created that signature course, and trying to help them up level just a little bit or a lot, depending on what their goals are.
Yeah.
But could we talk a little bit more about how you make a course engaging? Because I know that right now, Amy Porterfield just is closing her doors on Digital Course Academy. She's got several thousand students just getting started in the process. And they're thinking about course creation in a very different way. So I wonder if we could focus in a little bit on what makes it an engaging course, just to give everyone a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, when I have people who come to me and they're brand new, they're like, I've been thinking of starting a course for forever and I don't really know where to start. I think Amy's course is a great course because you do need an audience. You do need to know how to market. You do need to know how to launch. You can have the best course in the world, but if you don't know those things, nobody's going to see it. However, there's a step 2. There's like an additional layer, which is the actual curriculum or the actual content in the course. And so what I want people to know is that like creating a course is hard and it's a lot of work. And I don't say that to like scare anybody or scare people off, but I want to be honest about it because I think sometimes people get caught up in this, everybody has a course in them, it reads as it's easy. And so what happens is people get down the road a little bit and they come up against challenges or they don't know how to do things. And I think what they take away sometimes is, this isn't for me. It's easy for everybody else. It's difficult for me. I'm just not cut out for this. And so I want people to know that like, it's not you. There are ways to attack that. Attack is probably a little vicious.
But they might feel like they want to attack it at this point.
There are strategies and systems that you can use to create that content, to create that curriculum, people who you can access to help you. And there's solutions. So some of the things that people want to think about when they're thinking about creating an engaging course is that it's so important because it's what's going to set you apart. It's getting noisy out there. There are a lot of people creating courses. ChatGPT has just exacerbated this because you can no longer, even no matter what your Instagram ads are telling you, you can't create a course in a day because it's not about knowledge. It's not about information anymore. It's about that personal experience. And it's about what you share with your students. So number 1, I think you have to put yourself into the course. So that means you share your stories, you share your insider information behind the scenes, any kind of industry insight that you have. But you put your personality into it and you put yourself into it because that's why they're purchasing the course from you. They care about your viewpoint and your perspective on whatever it is you're teaching. So like that's number 1. You have to make sure that you're in there.
And let me just say, I talked to someone yesterday and he said, I can kind of tell when ChatGPT has written something and I just stop reading because I'm done. I want the human that's behind the words. I don't want the ChatGPT AI words. I want to connect with the human being that hit post. And so if I detect that it doesn't sound like them, it's not them, I stop reading, I'm done.
Yep, exactly. And I think we're going to become more savvy to that as, time progresses here. We're going to start to hear that a lot more easily. So it might be like an easy fix, a quick fix. Yes, you can create a course in a day. Is it going to be a good course? No. So those are 2 very, very different things. And then the other thing in terms of engagement that I would say is there are 3 types of interactions that your student will have in your course. So the first one is student to content. That's the one people think of first, right? What are the videos they are going to watch? What is the text they're going to read? What's the workbook going to look like? That's just one kind of interaction that your students have. The second kind of interaction they have is the student to instructor. And so you have to think about not just how you're going to put yourself in the content, but how students are going to interact with you. What kind of opportunities will you provide for them to interact with you? Is it live Q&As? Is it, Voxer chats? Is it a discussion forum? How are you going to interact with your students and how are they going to access you? Are you giving feedback to them? these are all questions that you need
Yeah.
to ask and then market, really.
Yeah, yes, because you know what? You're right. It's not the information anymore. Because
No.
we can all go to Google, which turned 25. I mean, goodness gracious. We can go to Google, put in that question, and get back a lot of different information. It's that human to human connection that we need. And that's what you're just talking about there, is that student to instructor. How are they going? They are buying that interaction with you. They're
They
not
are.
buying the content for the most part, because they can go Google it.
Yeah.
They can go
And
to YouTube.
I feel like there is a real opportunity in this middle ground of courses for growth. So I haven't got to my third part of interaction. I'm getting off topic, so don't let me forget that.
That was probably my fault.
No, that's okay. So I feel like there's kind of this entry-level course that's people often evergreen. It's like a low ticket, knowledge-based kind of thing. And then there's like the big gurus out there who are doing like the 2,000, 3,000 student courses. They have hired experts. The interaction with the actual kind of instructor or person who's offering the course is fairly minimal, and the price point is really high. In the middle, I feel, is this huge opportunity for people who want to create a course where they are going to have all of those interactions with the students, because that's what people are really willing to pay for. So are you giving feedback? Are you putting your eyes on their work or on their business? And are they able to ask you questions? That's where you're going to really stand out in your field or in your industry and be able to create a course that I think is like highly profitable. People look at profit as scaling. Can I scale it? How do I take myself out of the course? How do I take myself out of the course so that I can make more money? And I think it's the opposite. It's how do you put yourself into the course so that you can become valuable?
Yes. I was at a mastermind last week, and everyone around me was talking about scaling, and I presented my business and shared, and there are 3 seconds in, they're giving me all these ideas about why it won't work. And I said, wait, I'm not scaling this. I want my hands in every little piece of what's happening with my clients so that I can deliver that top tier experience for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're sold on this idea of like making the passive income and doing nothing and sitting on our laurels and having the money just roll in. And some people do that. Some people grow to that. But that's not where you start, in my opinion. And it shouldn't be the goal from the beginning. You're doing this because you want to help your students achieve a transformation. And the most efficient way that you can do that is by getting involved and showing that you care and helping them achieve that.
And if you think about your favorite classes, I know you still have number 3. If you think about the favorite classes you've ever taken, your favorite teachers, they were the ones that got you involved. They were not the ones that said, here's the content, and then they sat back and just looked at you.
Exactly. And so that's what I talk about a lot when I work with my clients, is like how to increase the student completion rates, how to get those referrals and those affiliate sales. That's where you're going to have your course sell itself. Because you're not going to be having to spend so much money on Facebook ads when you've got your former students going out there and singing from the rooftops about how wonderful your course is. That's how it's going to sell itself.
Yes. Yes. But that takes time and effort and intention.
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Number 3.
Okay.
What was number 3?
So we said the student to content interaction, the student to instructor interaction. And then the third thing you want to think about for an engaging course is student to student interaction. You want to provide students networking, students meeting each other. That's highly valuable. I've taken courses just because I want to network with people. I want to get into a community. You too. Yeah. And so it's like the opportunity for them to connect on Instagram, a community, like a discussion forum for them to interact with each other, groups, small groups, study groups where they interact with each other and create lifelong friends. I've even seen a course, or I've been involved with a course where they had alumni-led student groups. And they were highly useful and just great relationships that were We're built off of it, very, very popular. So that's the third thing to think about in terms of engagement. How do you create opportunities for your students to meet, network, and connect with each other?
And you have to be willing to think outside the box, because it can't just be a post in a Facebook group that says, hey guys, use this post and connect with one another.
Exactly. Yeah, it has to be much more active than that.
Yeah.
And the best ones are the ones that you're involved in, and you're giving prompts and you're giving feedback and you're really sparking those discussions. Yeah, for sure.
So what it all really comes down to is you have to be involved.
Yes.
This is not a set it and forget it kind of deal.
Exactly. And so much of the time, it's like people put so much time and energy into the marketing, and then the class starts and they just sit back. And it's like, no, that's when the work begins. There's so much more to it than that.
Yeah. Now, we've talked a little bit about the fact that creating a course is not easy. And sometimes it looks like it when you're looking in on other people who have gotten their course so far, or they have massive teams. But as a solopreneur, you don't have that. And it's not easy.
Yeah.
And so I think there's this misconception that we have to do everything ourselves. We don't take into account that these big names have big teams that are doing lots of work.
Yes.
And so we think, well, they're doing it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And we wait until it's almost too late to ask for help. So when do you recommend reaching out for some more one-on-one personal support when you're creating a course?
Yeah, I do agree that, sooner is better than later, because you're going to save yourself so much heartache. When you put your course out there and all of a sudden, your inbox starts filling with, where do I find this? Where do I get that? How do I access this? I tried to do this. A lot of questions about, like, I can't find this information, or questions about stuff that you're like, it's in the course, I put it there. That's a big red flag that there's something, amiss, that there's improvements that could be made in, like, the organization of the course. And then you want your students, like, completing the course and achieving those transformations. And that goes to curriculum development and work, putting the content in bite-sized pieces that are manageable in a way that's meant to achieve a certain outcome, achieve a certain goal. And so really, the sooner the better. It is an investment. And that's, I think, the obstacle for lots of people, because, again, sold on this idea of put in a little bit of effort, make your millions by next week,
and you're fine.
Yeah, exactly. But when you really invest in the content, so that you can be confident also, people throw around this word about imposter syndrome. I've heard someone say everybody has imposter syndrome. I disagree. I don't have imposter syndrome, because I know what I'm talking about.
Because you're an expert in what you're doing.
Right. So I think sometimes imposter syndrome is either somebody is just nervous because they're doing something for the first time and they're putting themselves out there, and that's normal. You should feel nervous. That's not imposter syndrome. The other time is sometimes people feel like they could be doing it better, or they know what they don't know. And oftentimes that's about how to take their expertise that they do know and put it into a format like a course that they don't know. That's a whole other skill. I know seasoned teachers who will not create curriculum because it's a totally different skill set.
Me too. I know people like that.
Yeah. And it's like, but we just assume that everybody should be able to do it. And so, don't feel bad about needing that help. I mean, I think feel smart, because you've identified what you don't know and where you need help. And isn't that the advice for all entrepreneurs, is to identify the skill sets that you don't have and then hire out and get that help sooner rather than later.
And because if you do that sooner, if you make that investment, then you are going to go further, faster.
Yes, absolutely. You will stand out amongst all the noise. People will be talking about your course, again, doing that promotion. You will market that course in a totally different way when you have the confidence behind it. You will talk about it. There will be excitement, and you will be able to sell it, quite frankly, a lot better than if you're not really that confident in what you've done and you're just kind of, hoping people will come along for the ride.
Hoping for the best. And you'll even be more confident when you record those course videos, because you know that it's going to be in the right order, the materials fleshed out correctly, that everything is there for your students to succeed.
Yes.
And so you are going to present that information in those recorded videos or that live training you're doing every week with that just presence that
Absolutely.
draws your students in, and they go, oh, this is good. I've got to take notes.
Yeah. I love how you say everything will be there, because the first time somebody runs a course, what glares the most is the steps that are missing. When you're an expert in something, it's very easy to kind of glance over something or, skip over something, because you forget that when you first did it, there were more steps to it, or, more background information, background knowledge that people had in order to understand it. And so when you get somebody else involved who's like a curriculum expert, but an outside lens on your course, then they can help you identify, what all the steps are and how to present it in a way to achieve a certain outcome. The problem with the stickies on the wall method is that it's great brain dump. It is a great brain dump.
Yes.
But it's focusing on what you want to teach or what you remember about the process. And it's not focusing on what the students are going to learn and what steps are necessary to achieve that goal. And that's really where you need to focus at the beginning of that course creation stage.
Yes. I've done the sticky notes on the wall. I was posting about it this week. I do it virtually as well, but then I always go back and I think about what is the exact outcome that I want to have happen. And then I deconstruct it. I go backward just to make sure that I get every single tiny step that I gloss over because I know how to do this.
Yes.
But that someone who's new to it or isn't as versed in the course content, that they aren't going to know to do.
Yes, you always start with the end in mind. What are they going to achieve by the end of the course, and work your way backwards? I agree 100%.
Yeah. Because if you start at the beginning, you may end up in a totally different place than you intended, or no place at all, even worse.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. That's it.
Okay. Oh, that's it in a nutshell. We just have to deconstruct everything. We've got to have that human to human interactions. Yes. We have to have an outside perspective. Yes. And I think that's the key, having an outside perspective. I can't tell you how many times I look things over for other people and I catch even the typos because our brain, when we write, just automatically fixes them.
Absolutely. And you know what? That creative process is so much better in a team. It is so difficult when you're trying to do it on your own, for anybody, for me too. I have people who hire me just so that we can have like brainstorming sessions and like vibe off of each other and, really get those creative juices flowing, because it just, you have an idea, it sparks something in me, and then I take it a little bit further and it sparks something in you. There's just so much beautiful content that can be created when you're working as a part of a team, as opposed to like an isolated person all by yourself. I love working as part of like curriculum development teams. I have done it all my life, and it's inspiring, it's motivating, and it really gets your your energy, your passionate energy about your topic going.
It does. It just ties everything together beautifully with a bow on top. Probably not the one I would tie, but one you might buy from someone who actually knows how to tie bows on top of pretty boxes.
Yeah.
But, thinking about the fact that we need someone in our court, we need someone to be bouncing ideas around with, to be helping us spot the holes and helping us figure out how to fill them. You are such a great resource, such a great asset to our entire course creation community. How can we connect with you, and how can we get to know more about you and maybe even work with you?
Thank you. Thank you for asking. So there's two main ways to get in touch with me. Instagram is one. So Shannon L. Boyer is my Instagram handle. The L is very important. There are many Shannon Boyers out there, and
I will link it so that all you have to do is click.
Great. And then my website is the same, www.shannonlboyer.com. I have a list of all of my services there if people are interested in engaging with me, and also a freebie called The 7 Things All Courses Must Have to Max Student Referrals. It's a great resource / checklist, and there's an opportunity there also to do a free discovery call with me, which is not a Nikki sales call. It's just a normal conversation to get to know each other and see if there's a match there and if there's an opportunity to work together.
I can't imagine you ever having that vibe of icky sales call. That just does not.
Thank you.
Does not even cross my mind when I'm talking to you. What a great opportunity to get that download, to be able to sit down and talk with you about ideas and possibilities to work together. Thank you so much for bringing all of your expertise to the call today. I think it was just so nice to hear it broken down simply into those segments of what do we really need to focus on to create an engaging course experience. And it goes beyond just the content you're plopping inside whatever thing you're using, whether it's Kajabi, a WordPress site, whatever it is. It goes beyond those little modules. And it's so much more. It really focuses in on that connection, whether it's student to student or student to instructor.
Yeah.
So
thank you so much. Thank you for having me. It's been really fun.
Awesome. Thank you.